Good afternoon. Good morning. I guess it's still morning. It's 11:30 here in North Dakota. So good morning and welcome to First Friday Lunch. My name is Tina Holland, and today, first of all, I want to apologize because I know that it's been a few months since we've done a First Friday Lunch, and part of that is because I've been super busy. And I'll tell you what I've been doing so that you kind of know what's coming up. So I worked all summer with my husband. We run a crop dusting business, and so we did that. And then I've been working on some projects, and I've also been doing some other things. I've been doing I work as a secretary for the Bizman Writers Guild out in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota. So I do a lot of virtual stuff, but we're creating a newsletter for the members. So I've been working on that. There is an art and writing event coming up with them as well that I've been a part of. So there's been a little bit of that going on. I wrote a short story for the Moorhead, Friends of the Moorhead Writer Group. I don't think I got the name right. I'll have to look it up. I'll put all the links to some of this stuff down below, though, so you guys have access to it. But I wrote a short story for their winter anthology. I don't know when that's coming out. And yeah, let's see. I've participated in PitMad. I got a like from an agent, so I'm pretty excited about that. So hopefully that maybe works into something because I've always kind of wanted to get in with a more established house. So we'll see how that goes. I have an elderly dog that's going to be going up the stairs, I think, in a few minutes. So if I run away, it's because she took a dive or something, but I think she'll probably be just fine. So, well, with those kind of quick announcements, let's get on to what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about cons, retreats, and continuing education in craft. And one of the reasons I kind of wanted to talk about that is because fall, it generally seems like there are these kinds of events going on in my life. And it seems like a new school year. And you're out of summer mode, you're out of vacation mode. Although I don't really count anything until after I've gone to a founders retreat every September. That's sort of like my new year of writing because it's restorative and stuff like that. So basically what I'm going to talk about is some of the cons, retreats, and some continuing education that I've got coming up and why I do those things, like why I choose to attend a con, why I choose to attend a retreat, or why I do continuing education. So let me talk about some of the ones that I've got coming up. So ValleyCon is a conference. It's a paranormal sci-fi conference that I will be attending, and it's in Fargo, North Dakota, October 15th through the 17th. There's the website listed. I'll also list these down below if you don't get a chance to see them or whatever. So that's like one of the conferences that I try pretty regularly to attend. There's another local sci-fi conference called CoreCon, and I didn't normally attend this, but I do write paranormal. I write some post-apocalyptic stuff, and now I'm writing steampunk as well. So there are the reasons for me to attend those cons, and then there's a small like local regional audience. So and then sometimes I get to network with other writers that are attending. Really, Zuzu? No noise until I go ahead and start this. So that's our son, Connor, and she is in love with me. She really is. I'm not a big bird fan. My husband's like the parrot person, and she bites him every time he goes by the cage. So I apologize for her making her presence known. Anyway, so ValleyCon is one that I attend. If it doesn't conflict, there's like a family reunion that I usually have at the end of October, right before Halloween. And so if it's not in conflict, I will go ahead and attend ValleyCon. So that's the con that I'm attending this fall. At the end of this month, I'm going to a founders retreat, which is part of Writers Zen Garden. I'll put their link below. And that's September 24th through the 26th. That's going to be a little more laid back. It's a group of writing friends that I've been friends with for years, and we kind of rotated around this year. It's in Washington. It's been held at my house before, out here at the farm. And it's been in Chicago, Las Vegas, the beach in Oregon. So, I mean, we've kind of rotated it around to give people some flavors around the country. But I'll talk a little bit more about why I go to that every year. So The last continuing education that I'm going to be doing is the Savvy Writers. Savvy Authors has WriterCon September 10th through the 12th. There's the link for if you want to attend. And this is just, absolutely free. So if you are looking to get some continuing education, either around business, marketing, craft, this is probably you're not out anything. All you got to do is register and you get to attend everything for free. So why not, right? So why do I choose cons, retreats, and, continuing education classes like online? Biggest reason, ROI, return on investment. So in the case of ValleyCon and then also CoreCon in the spring, those are local. It's not going to take much time out of my schedule. I don't have to buy a plane ticket to go anywhere. And usually, so my cost basis, I can usually stay at my house and then drive into Fargo every day. It's about 30-minute drive. So I can do that every day. And the cost is super, super low. So even if I don't sell a book, if I don't network with people, my investment is so low because I end up going into Fargo a few times a week anyway. So, oh boy, really? Okay, hold on. Wow, sorry about that. Welcome to live YouTube. Anyway, so that's one reason that I will go ahead and pick conferences like that. So like I said, ValleyCon is very close. And so the return on investment is worth it. Now, the Founders Retreat this year, I'm going to have to buy a plane ticket to go to Seattle. One year I went down through Portland. And so I had a plane ticket, a train ticket, and multiple. That was a few years ago, pre-pandemic. Last year, we did the conference online for obvious reasons. This will be our first time meeting. And so this one, I'm going to be going to, even though it costs money, the return on investment, and then the investment in this case is me. It recharges me. It gets me energized about writing again. I usually start a project, I kind of pick my nano project there. I start thinking about it because we're right in October where people are kind of prepping for nano. They're thinking about what am I going to write, what genre, that kind of stuff. So I will usually prep my nano project there or get an idea or start another book in a series or something like that. And the other thing is it's just a chance to reconnect. So we'll do we'll usually do an outing, a craft, stuff like that. So it really is refilling the well, which is a term from Juliet Cameron. So it really does refill my well. I think if I didn't do some sort of interaction with these writers that are my very good friends, that I would probably be missing out mentally, and those sorts of things. It really, really, really fuels my soul. And I can't say enough about that. I've attended other, there's other cons that I've attended that have been really expensive. One example is RT, which used to be Romantic Times Convention. And I actually don't know. I haven't been for years now, but I used to go almost every year, and it was creeping up. I think the last time I went, it was a couple $1,000s, just in plane ticket, because I got to fly out of Fargo, which is super, super expensive. Just in plane ticket and then in the hotel room. So, because they usually will be, I think the last time I went, they were in Las Vegas, and that was the last RT that I went to. And it had gotten so expensive. However, if it is in your city, if they still do it, I don't even know if they still do it. If it is in your city, I would recommend going. They have day passes and stuff now. I would recommend going to it just for the day or just for whatever, because it is an experience for sure. But I don't know. For me, it got to be, it's probably a lot like Dragon Con. I mean, it was getting to be that size. And so I think when you're looking to attend cons, retreats, or even do continuing education, you really have to look what are you needing? What are you hoping to get out of stuff? So Like savvy authors, I will try and attend this con, their writer con. They do it every year in September. I will try and attend it every year just because the classes are free. And so I'm usually at home in front of my computer and I'm not out anything. I think last year it conflicted with the founders retreat that we did online. So I think that I probably didn't attend last year, or there was some sort of conflict for me last year that I wasn't able to just invest in those classes as much. Or it's possible I was in something else and I totally missed it. So I think that if you can like go ahead and weigh out your time, like, can you make it? Is it a good season? I used to go to a ton of them in like June, April, May, June. Like the Romantic Times Con usually fell early spring, sometimes late spring. I used to go to those every year. But since my husband, the last 4 years that we've been in business, I've not been able to go just because we could have work that early in the season. It's highly unlikely. We don't usually get work until July, but you don't know. That changes from year to year. So I think that when I go ahead and I look at the time of year, like, is it going to conflict with, there's a ton of them in the summer too, like RWA is in the summer. I've never been, probably now I'm no longer a member, so I probably wouldn't go anyway, but, those fell right in the middle of the season, so I'm obviously not going to go. Some other continuing education things that I've done is Bizman Writers Guild does classes pretty regularly online. If you're a member, you get to go to those for free. Moorhead Writing Group doesn't do classes per se, but they'll bring authors in to speak, which in and of itself can be a really, really good learning experience to go ahead and hear how other authors got published, how long their journey was. So I'm absolutely fascinated by that, whether they're, traditionally published, self-published, or like a hybrid, and do indie publishing. I find that fascinating, that whole process. Indie publishing is fascinating to me anyway, just because the writers have to do so much of the marketing themselves. So I'm very interested in how that process works because I'm a digital first author and I work with a publishing house on my digital copies. But if I wanted to print them, because Book Boutiques only does digital, they have worldwide rights for digital English. So if I wanted to go ahead and sell the foreign rights, or if I wanted to do print, then I have to kind of understand how those parts of it work. So, which I'm exploring right now with the Courtesan of Constantinople. I'm looking to see, how can I go ahead and market that and get it out in the world in a print form. So like, do I go with Amazon? Do I go with Ingram Spark? So I'm kind of exploring that, which if you guys are interested in those kinds of videos and that exploration, go ahead and put it below, because I think going into this new year being like I almost treat this whole thing, like the YouTube, as like a school year. So like next year, I don't know that I'll do videos in the summer. Like June through August, I might just take a break. Like that, we might start a new season in September, like television. So I did do one in July, if you want to see what my trailer looks like. And I had like the worst connection. And so if you want to see what my trailer looks like for all of 5 seconds, I don't even know if it's that long. It might be like a half a second. I'm not sure. But if you're interested to say, oh, hey, where does Tina work? Yeah, you can go ahead and take a look at that. So, but yeah, anyway, so yeah, I think when you're going ahead and you're looking at, cons, retreats, and continuing education, like for the cons and the retreats, like really like look at how much money you're going to invest, and then what are you going to get out of it, and what are you expecting to get out of it. Like I said, I'll go to these local cons because I'm not out anything, and it gives me a chance to network with regional authors, with a local fan base, which can be huge because I don't want to say they're more likely to buy your book, but I feel like if people know that you're in the region, they're more likely to connect with you, because sometimes you're going to maybe write from a perspective that they kind of get right away. because like I pick locations that are sort of in this region, like Minnesota, North Dakota, and I think actually my new series isn't in North Dakota, but it's in Montana. But it's still kind of, we're all in that upper Midwest Plains region. Not really Minnesota, but North Dakota, South Dakota, those places. We're kind of all in the same region. So I think there's kind of I don't know how to say it. It's just, you kind of get the storyline because you don't have to like think about the setting. So, which is a tough thing for me. I have a hard time with setting. So sometimes I think if people read, like I have a contemporary series set in Fargo, I think they read it and they're like, oh my God. And I did have like my first book, I made like one reference to one street and people are like, I know exactly where that is, where you built your fictional cafe. And so I think that that's kind of a nice thing when you go to a regional thing, because you maybe only have to give like one detail to anchor the reader in the setting. Even if I made Fargo a fictitious town, like I picked a fictitious town based on Fargo, you would still have very little that the reader would need to anchor to the setting. So some people say don't write about, there's a few authors that won't write about their hometowns or won't even write because they've done so much research on their fictional location or actual location that that's what they'll do. But so yeah, it's a chance for me to meet fans that are really connected with my work. So sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but that's almost always go to a regional conference. I will go, which could be anything from like Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is pretty far south, all the way out to Montana. So, I mean, if I can drive there in a day, like 14 hours, to me, it's considered local or regional, because that's just how we think up here, because like we have airports, but usually to get a decent price on a flight, you got to drive to Minneapolis, St. Paul, almost always, or someplace else, because you're not going to get a good priced flight out of North Dakota. You can get one, but it's kind of a hefty amount of money. So they're just not the best deals. Anyway, so that's like one thing. I'll almost always go to a local conference. When retreats, there's a couple retreats that I have been kind of had my eye on. I don't know if they still do it. There was one down in the Smoky Hills region that was mostly sci-fi authors that I really was interested in going one. And then there's also the Northern California's Writers Retreat. I will find a link to that as well and put it in. They have not met the last, I think, like a year and a half or so, but I think they have quarterly or semesterly retreats, and it looks so gorgeous. I want to go. It's on my like bucket list of retreats. But otherwise, I kind of keep it just to local writing groups that I'm a part of. I think Moorhead Writing Groups is going to do one this year. I'll be actually gone when they do theirs. And then Bizman is talking about doing one. So, I mean, there's opportunities to like just collaborate within your own like local writing group, if you're a part of a writing group. But it's great to connect with other writers, especially writers that are either write in the same genre as you or are in a place where you want to be. So if you're connecting with writers, and this goes for cons too, if you're connecting with writers that are where you want to be, like I want to be, I would like to have an agent, because part of the thing with being, doing my own connections with publishers is I have to write the query letter, which is fine. I can do that, but I got to write the query letter. I got to follow up. I'm kind of doing a business side of writing that I would kind of like to set aside. I'm not saying I would never do it, but I'd like to set it aside and just really work on the writing, because now that writing's pretty much my full-time job, 9 months out of the year, it's my full-time gig. I could really put out books much faster if I don't have to take care of the business end of it. So, like selling the book, so to speak, not necessary. I don't mind doing the marketing and stuff like that. But even at that, it'd be nice to have an agent who wants to collaborate on that and can say, hey, I would not take out that Facebook ad because, we've not seen any draw for that genre or what you're writing as a return on investment. See, we're getting back to return on investment. So I think anytime you look at doing anything with your money, you have to make sure it's a return on investment. I think it's always worth testing out something just to try it if you can afford it. Like a good example was I used to go to these Romantic Times conventions, and part of it was I had a couple of really good friends, Debbie Cairo and Lynn Armstrong, who were writers. And this was sort of our annual like meetup spot, was that particular convention. And actually, if you go out to my website, I have like the link to Lynn's books. And I don't know if either one of them are still writing, but we used to connect. And it was a good chance for us to catch up, see how people were doing. They had parties. So it was sort of like a built-in retreat in a lot of ways. And every time I went to that con, that's the way I looked at it. I looked at it as, oh, I'm going to meet my friends. I might sell a few books. I'm going to connect with other writers. I'm going to have a good time. So it was more like a vacation, a working vacation in some sense, because the other thing is when you do like the book signings and stuff like that, they finally divided it up between electronic or small press and traditionally published authors. So you weren't all in the same thing, but it's like hundreds of authors. And then you have all these people going through, and the odds that you're going to sell, if you're not a big name like a Nora Roberts or a Paige Tyler or Heather Graham or someone who's very well established within their genre, their subgenre of romance, is pretty slim. So I usually, when I would prep for cons, even now doing the local ones, I only bring like 10 books. Like these local ones, I'll probably bring 5 and 5, or I'll see what I have. I did a print on Beauty and the Beast a few years ago, but it's the second book in a series because the first one was tied up in an anthology. And so I don't usually reprint those. I think I have maybe 2 copies left, or maybe even just 1 copy. And once I sell that one, it's gone. But I usually bring copies of Fireproof, which is a paranormal fireman story, and it's got fairies in it. And actually, I'm writing Wind Resistant, which is the sequel to that, which also would be nice to get kind of an. I have this Regency that this this agent liked, that would be really nice if she picks it up so that she could do all the connecting with the publishers and everything, and I can finish this other story. So. But yeah, I'm just writing Wind Resistant now. And that one, I mean, I'll print out Fireproof. I'll print out How to Get Sure, Fighting Your Path to Publishing, which is my nonfiction book. I'll bring that one, and I'll bring the pilot and the pinup, which I don't expect. It may or may not sell. I don't expect it to sell well at ValleyCon just because it's a contemporary. It does have pinup art on it, which is lovely, and I like. So I'll bring those books, but I don't expect there to be big sales. Sometimes when I go to these local cons, I'll get a bigger uptick in digital sales. Or if people want to request it through the library, like Hoopla has it for free or whatever, if you are a resident of Fargo, or if your library gives you access to Hoopla, they could read it for free. And actually, just so you know this as writers, Hoopla pays, well, at least for me anyway, it goes through my publisher, but I get paid 10 cents a copy, which is way more than I make at Amazon. And Overdrive buys the copy. So basically, Hoopla pays by download and Overdrive buys the copy. And I will always see upticks in my sales across different genres, but or different distributors. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I used to sell huge on Barnes and Noble, and now I don't. I don't know why that is. But for whatever reason, I don't. I have a dog low growling for some reason. Oh, snoring. They're snoring. I'll see if I can pause so you can hear it. There. Dog snore. Anyway, so yeah, that's I won't bring a lot of that to the con. I will also What else? So I'll bring a few books. I bring a bunch of promo items that I just lay out on the table. One of the things I'm going to be bringing is I've been kind of rounding up copies of Fargo Inc., which is it's a local magazine. The Moorhead Friends Writer Group got a grant, and so it's talking about the grant that they got. But they took all the published authors and put little like a banner down on the bottom of all their books. And so the Courtesan of Constantinople made it into Fargo Inc. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to bring some copies of that. So I've been kind of going around town grabbing like 4 or 5 copies, and I'll have them on my table to sign if people are interested in that sort of thing. So I thought, well, that's good, because then you kind of give out this free promotional stuff and you're connecting with readers on a different level, which I love. And then because I love to talk to readers about writing. I'm also going to do a few classes there. So if you are a writer and you're local, there's some continuing education right there, because I'm going to be doing some classes with Justin out of the Bizman Writers Guild, because he's coming in for it. And I think there's a couple other things. So, and we're going to be talking about like writing groups and some of that kind of stuff. So in the different paths to publishing, because I believe I think he's maybe done some short stories for people, but he's also pretty much straight indie, which is different than me, because I've worked mostly with small presses, and there's different advantages and disadvantages. I have a video about that down below that we can totally talk about. So that's kind of my prep for that. Founders Retreat is just going to be me packing my bags, having a good time. I have to bring some tiles because we're going to do a craft. So hopefully they won't break in my carry-on. I'll have to pack them uniquely, but that's just a getaway. So the return on investment is all about investing in me and my mental health, and just kind of getting past the last 24 months that has been Corona, so really reconnecting with people again. I'm fortunate that I'm going to a place that doesn't seem overly hot, but we can practice social distancing. We can, basically just reconnect and see somebody's face again, or see their face like this if we're wearing masks, depending on what we're doing. So there's a lot of opportunity for outdoor activities, which I think will be huge. So my sister is actually going on a retreat with friends prior to me, as she is traveling about a week and a half before me. And she was originally going to go to New Orleans, and they just moved it because of the mask mandate, or not the mask mandate, but partially because of the restrictions, because they weren't sure how restricted it was going to be when they got down there. And now she's going to Savannah, Atlanta. I don't remember where, but yeah, so she's traveling, and hopefully that'll go well, and they don't have a hurricane situation or anything like that. But they moved because of like COVID, basically. But now it was fortunate they did, because the whole place is underwater. So I'm not sure how that would have worked if they hadn't been able to move their retreat. So the Founders Retreat's pretty easy. And then obviously Savvy Writers, I think I'm taking a couple classes, business classes, because that's Indy, come here. Because that's more what interests me at this stage of the writing game. I take less stuff on character development, partially because I think as the longer you write, the more you end up with this internal formula of what works for you. I write heavy dialogue. I'm always interested in seeing a little bit more about setting, but if it's not more tip oriented, I'm like, these are good ways to like help create setting, is kind of what I'm like a top 10 list is more my style at that stage, versus let's write about how this tree looks to kind of get it. I can do that, but I don't find it as helpful. Because I feel like, I could do that on my own. So I'm taking some classes on marketing, on hybrid publishing, on indie publishing, on just the business side of things, because that's sort of where I'm at and fascinated with at this point in my career. And I think partially because if I was going to write in a totally different genre, like not romance, Maybe I would take a class on whatever genre, but it's kind of like I read romance pretty heavy. And I also write in a few different subgenres of romance. So I'm comfortable with my style and where it sits right now. So I don't know that I need to do anything. The other thing is too, is that sometimes you can do stuff on query letters and stuff like that, but I feel like I've got that sort of down as well. The things that sort of are interesting to me marketing wise are things like TikTok, and the new forms of social media that are coming out. I don't know that I would pursue that, but that might be of interest. So I'm actually almost at time. So I see nobody popped in, which is totally fine because I wanted to do this one a little lower key just in case something popped up at the last minute because I've got some personal things going on that could change everything. So I didn't promote this as heavily as I normally do. But the next lunch is going to be October 1st at 11:30 a.m. right here. So go ahead and pencil me in for lunch.